Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host and today we have a collection of stories that will make you laugh, cry and gasp in disbelief. Our video is titled, Betrayal, Deception and Family Tragedy, Shocking Stories of Love and Lies. These stories are filled with unexpected twists, outrageous behavior, and some seriously entertaining drama. But before we dive into these wild stories, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest fun and shocking uploads. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like it and share your thoughts in the comments section below. Now let's dive into it. This video includes 4 stories. The first story is my in-laws disowned us for refusing to name our baby after a deceased relative. My fiancé, 27 male, and I, 25 female, have an infant son. We're overjoyed at being parents, but most of my in-laws refuse to even see our baby because of our decision concerning his name. My in-laws have a tradition of giving the firstborn son of every generation the same name. Let's say it's Peter. This has been going on for about 7 generations already, and they're very serious about it. My fiancé's eldest cousin was the latest person to get named Peter. Every one of his cousins has only had daughters so far, so our baby is the first son of his generation and consequently should get the name. I have no problem with the name Peter, and I would have been okay with naming my son that. Unfortunately, that was also my uncle's name, who died before I was born. I won't get into details, but it was tragic and traumatizing for my family. My father never got over losing his younger brother. My grandmother asked the family not to name any of our future children Peter during her lifetime. My mother-in-law and father-in-law knew about this promise and, at first, seemed to be not only okay with us avoiding the name Peter, but also supportive of the one we chose. However, my grandmother sadly passed away when I was 7 months pregnant. We traveled for her funeral. On our last days there, my in-laws called to offer me their condolences. Then my mother-in-law asked me if I would think about the name Peter now. Suddenly, they were insistent that the name we chose was awful, and we had to honor their tradition. According to them, they only had agreed to make an exception for us for my grandmother's sake and had no obligation to keep it now that she had passed. My family agrees that, while we don't have to avoid the name anymore, it still doesn't feel right to use it. My fiancé also agrees with me, but his parents spent the last weeks of my pregnancy trying to convince us to change our minds about the name. When our baby was born and we named him what we wanted, my in-laws were furious that we had broken a 7-generation-old family tradition. Some of them hadn't previously wanted to name their sons Peter, but did it anyway for the family's sake. They said our decision was selfish and that my family should have moved on by now. This has nothing to do with whether my family's moved on. It just felt like a betrayal of my grandmother and uncle's memories to even consider using the name. My father-in-law offered us $1,000 to change our son's name to Peter after he was born. That was 2 months ago and neither of my fiancé's parents have met the baby or seen us since I was pregnant. Most of my in-laws are on their side and this is causing a huge rift between my fiancé and his family. He assures me he's fine, but I'm starting to feel really guilty about this. Am I the idiot? Edit. The tradition started as far as I know when OG Peter died and his son, also named Peter, named his firstborn after his father. Peter III had the first son of the following generation and did the same thing. That one died before having children, so his sister gave the name to her son and so on. The name Peter is very common in my country and none of them ever get bullied over it, and the fact that it was also my uncle's name isn't as unlikely as one might think. Also, middle names aren't used in my country. Most people get the maternal surname before the paternal one instead. Some hadn't wanted to name their kid but did it for the family's sake. Have you broken a pact with Satan or something? Not the idiot. Family name traditions are weird. You can do whatever you want and name your baby. Keep pushing me. I'm honoring my late grandmother's final wishes part so they see how unhinged they sound, asking you to flout this. Lunatics should never be around babies or kids or me or you. Seriously? Do you live on the set of Dynasty? Ugh. Also, as a grandma, the idea of rejecting a child based on a name is simply trifling. It's downright shallow, petty, and a horrid representation of one's integrity. Honestly, the longer these people avoided my child, the less their value would be worth in my child's life. Who would want such people around after a while? What would they bring to the table for my child? How would people like this positively enrich their development? I feel bad for Opie's partner as this behavior surely has hurt him. As an aside, once again, tradition is a euphemism for misogyny. Note only male children have a special name and all the female children were not fought over. Presumably, no one cared what they were called. All the more reason to end this now. Update: am I the idiot for breaking my fiancé's family tradition by naming my son what I wanted? Thank you so much to everyone who commented and offered support. A lot has happened since, so I'd like to give you an update. About a week after my post, my fiancé's parents contacted us. They apologized for their behavior and begged me to meet my son. They said they were ready to leave the naming debacle behind and truly wanted to be involved in their grandson's life. We were skeptical, but invited them over to meet the baby. The visit went well. They began coming over almost every day during the next 3 weeks. I noticed neither of them ever called my son by his name, but I didn't point it out. Things seemed good for the first time in months between my fiancé and his parents. One day, my fiancé was helping my father-in-law with something at our place, so my mother-in-law and I went to the park with my baby. I had to go to the bathroom sometime later, so I left him in the stroller with her. When I returned, she was sitting on a park bench, chatting with a woman who was cooing over my son, so I went over there and introduced myself as Sunname's mom, and she said, "Oh, I thought his name was Peter." I didn't say a word, and neither did my mother-in-law. She followed me to the car, and we went back to my apartment. On the way there, I texted my fiancé about what had happened. When we arrived, he kicked both his parents out of our place. He'd read my text and confronted his father. Thankfully, my father-in-law is a terrible liar and confessed immediately. Apparently, both my in-laws only call my son Peter. That includes whenever they're talking about him, every time they introduce him to someone else, and even baby talking to him on the few occasions that they were left alone with him. Neither of them is embarrassed by this and thinks they're in the right. We're heartbroken, especially my fiancé, not only because his parents can't let go of their pride, but also because the name we chose for our son means a lot to both of us. I blame myself for encouraging my fiancé to allow them near our son. I was raised in a different city than all my grandparents, and I always wished they could have been more involved in my life. Losing my grandmother didn't help. Pretty much every doubt I had only existed because I thought it would be important for my son to grow up with all of his parents around. But now all my guilt is gone. They don't deserve to be in his life if they can't respect my son enough to call him by his name. I hope they enjoyed the 3 weeks they had with their grandson, because that's all they're getting until they get their heads out of their butts. Yikes! Are they this psychotic and unhinged about other things in life, or just this one issue? What a weird hill for them to die on. We can be grateful you found this out now, because if you play your cards right, by the time they see your son again, he'll know his name. According to my fiancé, they've always been a little entitled, but I never really saw them enough to be able to say that. When the lady from the park asked about his name, it did cross my mind that she might think I was a kidnapper. However, his name is written on one of his blankets, which calmed me down a little. Still, I can't help but think of what my mother-in-law would have done had the woman threatened to call the cops. I seriously can't wrap my head around this. They're throwing away a son, a grandson, future grandchildren, and a daughter-in-law. Family members that some people would give anything to have. That's the real atrocity. That's something for them to feel ashamed about. That's literally so tacky and disgusting of them. I'm sure your husband is so embarrassed and ashamed that his family's being this way. He probably feels guilty, but it's so hurt. I'm so sorry, OP. Wow, just wow. We recently moved in with my in-laws because I'm 31 weeks pregnant with our first child, and I feel like I need my mother-in-law for support since I've been pretty terrified the entire third trimester and my parents don't live nearby. My husband didn't want to move in with them, and the only reason he did was that I told him I'd go without him and he could stay in our home alone until after the baby's born. His parents are great and very close, so that's not why he didn't want to temporarily move in with them. We've thought about it a lot before we moved. We're still arguing about it now because he thinks it wasn't necessary. I'm stressing over nothing, which maybe I am, but that doesn't magically make the stress disappear. He said multiple times that I forced him to move here, but he could have stayed at our house like I said. I can't expect my mother-in-law to visit every day, and I feel better in a house with other people around. My husband does sometimes work from home, but he's usually holed up in his office, so it's like he's not here anyway, so this is better for me. My in-laws are more than happy to have us here, but my husband is still sulking and gives me an annoyed look whenever his parents say something about his habits that he doesn't like. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Did you consider that there may be a reason your husband doesn't want to live with his mother? Also, dropping do this or I'm leaving in a marriage is unhealthy. Not only do this or I'm leaving, but it's also do this or I'm leaving with your unborn child and won't be back until after their birth. What a crappy ultimatum. Understandable that you want support, but to upheave the entire household and move in with in-laws just because. Sorry, but that's the nuclear option in marriage. What do you say if he says fine and then you don't get his mother because you left him? Everyone around you has to change their lives around because you're afraid. Of what exactly? Grow up, lady. You decided to have a child, not them. Your self-centered entitled attitude is out of control. I talked to a therapist about anxiety as it can and might only get worse from here. Your doctor must be informed that you moved into your in-laws' house because you're too scared to be alone for labor or when the baby comes. I disagree. OP is not the idiot. When people ask for help, they're the bad guy or girl. When they don't, they're also the bad guy or girl. What the heck do you people want? She said she needed and wanted help and that she'd like to stay with her mother-in-law because they would be happy to help her. Why is this a problem? If this was her own mother, would anyone blink an eye? Childbirth is a big deal. It's natural to feel some anxiety as a first-time mom. How fortunate that she has supportive in-laws and a good relationship with her mother-in-law. My wife 31 female and I 36 male had been married for 2 years now and she has a very regimented wellness and mindfulness routine. She wakes up at 5 a.m., does yoga in the spare room, goes on a quick run and comes home to make a smoothie using one of those loud Nutri Ninja blenders and will get on with her day. She also meditates in there, journals and does other things that I can't disrupt her because it's her personal time. She was like this before I met her and it was clear that if I wasn't on board with this aspect of her routine, she doesn't want to pursue anything with me. While I'm not thrilled she has the whole room for herself, I did ask if I could put my PC in there so it's not in the dining room space. It was there before I moved in with her, so I made my peace with it. My sister's coming to town with her partner and young daughter, young grammar school age. We both agreed to let them stay with us to save money. My wife wants them to sleep in the living room because we have multiple comfortable sofas for them to sleep on. While there was enough room, I made my case for buying air mattresses for them and setting them up in my wife's spare room. I also asked her if she would part with her smoothie making at least until they wake up so they aren't disturbed in the morning. My wife is vehemently opposed to giving up her room and smoothies. She doesn't think the room will be comfortable for them. No carpets, and it's got huge windows and massive mirrors on one wall, and says that if I'm using this situation to disrupt her routine, which I apparently hate, I'm not sure where she got that from since I've never asked her to change it. We're in for a disagreement over where they should stay, and my wife is even threatening to not allow them to stay and have them get a hotel for the visit. Am I the idiot? I don't think giving up the room is that hard to ask for my family's comfort, and it's only 3 days. As someone who's currently in the throes of a deep dark depression, I feel like your wife's routine was possibly born out of an absolute necessity and that it may be the thing that keeps her functional. I would say that she was very clear with you about how important her routine was, so I think you are the idiot for wanting her to change it. I do also understand that she may be seen as non-accommodating, but it was never a secret. Some things that look selfish are more than what they seem from the outside. I don't care if he agreed, anyone who needs to run a blender early in the morning with guests is selfish and needs therapy to work through their issues. I'm a creature of habit too, but that's not an excuse for rudeness. She needs to work through her issues in therapy. Dominating an environment and being unable to care for others is a big issue. Also, people can readjust their positions and evolve over time. Then the guest should stay in a hotel. They can also readjust their positions. She made it clear she has a routine. She's trying to work with you by letting them stay with y'all, but you're so desperate to interrupt a routine that's somehow bugging you that you refuse to see it. Perhaps you should ask yourself why you are so resentful of this routine. Is it because it's her time with herself and she isn't paying attention to you? Or because you're jealous that you don't have that same dedicated time allotted for you to have your time? Look at yourself and figure it out soon. Update. Thank you for all the advice, everyone. I've decided not to push this issue any further with my wife, and my sister and family can use the sofas, or I'll pay partly for a hotel for them. I do plan on asking my wife about her routine. She thinks that because the living room and kitchen are separated by a room, there's no need to muffle the blender sound on top of more than we already do with the insulation pads and a shut door. My wife, 28, has recently gone back to work after a long break after our daughter, kindergarten, was born. She's experienced a few hard days at work. I, 32 female, thought it might lift her mood up a little bit if I cook something for her with the I don't cook around the house because of my work schedule, but I decided to do it for her to help boost her mood. We made our dining room into a restaurant. I got us both chef hats and matching aprons, and we cooked. While cooking, we made a bit of a mess in the kitchen. We were almost done when I got a call from her. She said her mom, my mother-in-law, they live in a different state and we barely see each other, had come to pay a visit and asked me to prepare the guest room if I could, and said she'd be home shortly. So, I panicked and couldn't clean up before they arrived. They came home to a messy kitchen and my daughter acting as a restaurant manager. My wife adored the whole thing, but her mom immediately said how we lived with all this mess was disappointing. She said serving someone food like this in their home was ridiculous and made fun of the process. My wife told me to just let it go, but somehow I felt like a huge idiot because the timing could not be worse and my wife and I stayed up cleaning the mess that night. Am I the idiot? Your mother-in-law is the idiot with no notice? What was it, a surprise inspection? You did something wonderful with your daughter and she'll always remember it. Your wife isn't upset. She has more love for you because you did it. Not the idiot. Mother-in-law can stay at Motel 6. Motel 6 sounds like an appropriate punishment. Do you know what is ridiculous? People showing up unannounced, staying for the night, and daring to complain and mock you and your kid. Perhaps she'd be happier somewhere else, like her state. What an idiot. What kind of relationship does your wife have with her mother that even though the mother-in-law lives in a different state and you had zero notice she was showing up? I would not be cool with that at all. Your mother-in-law being judgy and rude blows my mind. Cooking makes things messy and she was a last-minute guest, not to mention the restaurant thing is adorable. Oh honey, your mother-in-law needs a reality check and a respect for others check. Well, hey there, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, your go-to storyteller for tales that unravel the complex tapestry of relationships, family dynamics, and the unexpected twists life throws our way. Today, I have a story that's both heart-wrenching and empowering. It's titled, My 20-Year Marriage Was a Lie, Walked In on My Wife and Her Secret Lover. This is a tale of love, betrayal, and ultimately, the resilience of the human spirit. Buckle up, because this one is going to take you on an emotional roller coaster. Been married to Sarah for 20 years. College sweethearts, the whole 9 yards. Built a good life together. Nice house, great kid. Thought we had it all. Well, guess what? Turns out happily ever after can take a sharp turn at, never saw that coming, lame. Booked a surprise flight back early from a business trip. Thought I'd surprise Sarah with takeout and a movie night. Key in the door, expecting the usual flickering TV, smell of her jasmine candles. Hit with silence instead. Empty house. Weird. Stomach started churning. Checked the bedrooms. Master door was unlocked. A sliver of light peeked out. Pushed the door open slowly. There it was. Like a scene from a bad soap opera. Sarah. Tangled in the sheets, with some random dude. Rage? Yeah. There was rage. But mostly, a cold emptiness. Didn't yell. Didn't scream. Just a strangled noise that escaped my throat. The dude scrambled out of bed, fumbled for his clothes, and bolted. Sarah? Tears, apologies, a babbling mess. Didn't hear a word. Just stood there, the picture of betrayal hanging in the air. That's when the plan started forming. Didn't want a screaming match, throwing things. Needed to be clear-headed, strategic. Feigned acceptance, told her we'd talk in the morning. Spent the night on the couch, the image of them burned into my brain. Morning light brought a strange kind of calm. Pretended everything was normal while secretly gathering evidence. Phone records, receipts, anything to prove what happened. Hired a lawyer, a shark. The kind who takes no prisoners, especially cheating spouses. Sarah noticed the lawyer. Panic set in. She tried talking, pleading. Didn't care. The truth would come out, and she'd pay. The lawyer was good. Found hidden bank accounts, a trail of secret art sales Sarah had been keeping from me. Turns out, while I was grinding away at work, she was playing the starving artist with a secret stash. The divorce was brutal. Exposed the affair in court filings. Sarah became the town pariah. The other guy vanished without a trace. Justice, in a way. Got full custody of our son. He needed stability, away from the wreckage of our marriage. Sold the house, a fresh start for both of us. It wasn't easy. Therapy sessions helped me and my son navigate the emotional fallout. Leaned on old friends for support. Slowly, tentatively, started dating again. Met someone new recently. She's kind, funny, everything Sarah wasn't at the end. Still a work in progress, but I'm moving on. Learned a harsh lesson, but one that made me stronger. There's life after betrayal, and sometimes, revenge is best served cold, calculated, and with a killer lawyer by your side. Life with a newborn wasn't easy, but it was good. Sleepless nights, mountains of laundry, the usual. Sarah seemed happy, the baby healthy. Then things started changing, slowly at first. Remember that whole, focusing on her art career, thing? Seemed forgotten. No more late nights in the studio, paints collecting dust. Work became my world. Climbing the corporate ladder to support our growing family. Didn't mind. That's what husbands do, right? Then came the weird stuff. Little things at first. Unexplained charges on the credit card. A new perfume I didn't recognize clinging to her clothes. Ignored it. Figured I was just tired. Big mistake. The late nights, working on art, started. Calls taken with hushed voices, out of earshot. Missed dinners. Excuses that never quite fit. I tried talking to her, asking what was wrong. Just brushed me off, said I was overreacting. One night, I came home to an empty house. No Sarah, no baby, just a cold, gnawing feeling in my gut. Called her phone, went straight to voicemail. That's when the suspicion really hit. Where was she? With who? The next morning, Sarah waltzed in like nothing was wrong. Tried to play it cool, but the guilt was etched on her face. Confronted her, demanded the truth. Stuttered excuses, tears, the whole drama queen routine. Didn't buy it. Something bigger was going on. That's when I knew this wasn't just a rough patch. This was betrayal, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Didn't yell. Didn't scream. Just a quiet determination settled in my gut. Sarah would regret the day she messed with our family. The game was on. Those late-night art meetings were starting to grate on me. Came home one night, expecting the usual takeout containers littering the counter. Sarah hunched over a canvas with paint-splattered overalls. Nope. Empty house. Silence so thick you could cut it with a knife. Checked her studio untouched. No paints, no brushes, just a layer of dust. A knees coiled in my gut. Where was she? Called her phone again. Voicemail for the third night in a row. Texted. Where are you? One word reply. Busy. Busy with what? That was the question gnawing at my sanity. The next morning, Sarah breezed in, all smiles and apologies. Claimed she'd been at a committee meeting that ran late. Committee meeting? For her art club that didn't exist anymore? My patience was wearing thin. Committee meeting, huh? My voice was flat, emotionless. Sarah's smile faltered. Yeah, for the, upcoming gallery show. Liar. There was no gallery show. I knew it, and she knew I knew it. Didn't press her then, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Started noticing other things. Those little unexplained charges on the credit card? More frequent now, and for things Sarah would never buy: fancy restaurants, jewelry stores. The phone calls. Always on mute. Always hushed whispers when I walked into the room. The lingering scent of a cologne I didn't recognize. These weren't random occurrences. This was a pattern, and the picture it painted wasn't pretty. One evening, Sarah left her phone unattended. Stupid mistake. A notification popped up, a text from an unknown number. My heart hammered in my chest. Curiosity, or maybe a morbid sense of dread, took over. Clicked on the message. It was short, just a few words, but enough to shatter my world. Can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a late art meeting or a committee dinner. This was something far worse. The truth was staring me in the face, and I knew then my life was about to change forever. The lingering scent of that cologne was driving me crazy. It wasn't just on her clothes anymore. It seemed to cling to her like a second skin. Asked her about it. Said it was a new art supply. She was trying. Yeah, right. Art supplies don't smell like expensive cologne shops. Then came the weekend getaway. Need some inspiration for a new piece, she said, booking a cabin in the woods for herself. Didn't like it, but what could I say? Maybe some time alone would clear her head. The empty house felt strange, a hollow echo of the life we once had. Missed Sarah. Missed our son, but mostly missed the feeling of normalcy. The conference dragged on, presentations and meetings blurring together. Just wanted to get back home, get some answers. Booked an earlier flight, a surprise for Sarah. Figured a home-cooked meal and a movie night might mend things. Landed. Grabbed takeout, keys in hand, picturing a cozy evening. Nope. Reality check time. Walked in the door, expecting the usual flickering TV, smell of her jasmine candles. Hit with silence instead. Empty house. Same feeling of dread as before. Where was she? With who? This time, I wasn't going to let it slide. Checked the bedroom, then the bathroom. Nothing. But then, a glimmer of hope, her phone was on the kitchen counter, screen lit up. Stupid mistake number 2. Picked it up, heart pounding. The same text message notification from before. Clicked on it, bracing myself. This time, it wasn't just a few words. It was a full-blown conversation, a lovey-dovey exchange that made my stomach churn. Didn't need to read the whole thing. Enough was enough. The pieces of the puzzle finally clicked into place. The late nights, the perfume, the weekend getaway. It was all there, black and white, a digital betrayal staring me in the face. Anger surged through me, hot and potent. But then, a cold logic settled in. Panic wouldn't help. Needed a plan. Needed revenge. Served cold and calculated. Sarah had shattered our life, and I wouldn't let her get away with it. The game was on, and this time, I was playing to win. Didn't even slam the phone down. Just stared at the screen, the sickening confirmation burning into my brain. Betrayal. Raw and unfiltered. My wife, in our bed, with another man. The life I thought we had, shattered in a million pieces. First came the rage. Blind, primal fury that choked the air out of my lungs. Wanted to scream, to tear things apart. But then, something unexpected happened. The rage receded, replaced by a cold, steely calm. Dangerous calm. Sarah walked in then, all smiles and, "How was your trip?" Didn't flinch. Just played along, the evidence burning a hole in my pocket. Needed to keep her off guard, buy time for my plan. Good, I said, voice flat. Early flight, figured I'd surprise you. Her smile faltered for a second, just a flicker of unease I didn't miss. The next few days were a blur. We slept in separate rooms, a tense silence hanging heavy in the air. Sarah kept trying to talk, to explain. Ignored her. Didn't need her lies, not anymore. Focused on gathering proof. Downloaded phone records, checked credit card statements. Hired a lawyer, a shark my friend recommended. The kind who takes no prisoners, especially cheating spouses. Costly, but worth every penny. The lawyer was good. Found hidden bank accounts, a trail of secret art sales Sarah had been keeping from me. Turns out, while I was grinding away at work, supporting our family, she was playing the starving artist with a secret stash. Livid doesn't even begin to describe it. The confrontation was anticlimactic. The lawyer laid out the evidence, cold and hard. Sarah crumbled, tears streaming down her face. Didn't feel a shred of pity, just a deep-seated disgust. The divorce was brutal. Exposed the affair in court filings, let the town know what she'd done. She became the town pariah, the scorned wife. Karma, I guess. The other guy vanished without a trace, probably for the best. Got full custody of our son. He needed stability, away from the wreckage of our marriage. Sold the house, a fresh start for both of us. It wasn't easy, but I survived. Therapy sessions helped me and my son navigate the emotional fallout. Leaned on old friends for support. Slowly, tentatively, started dating again. Met someone new recently. She's kind, funny, everything Sarah wasn't at the end. Still a work in progress, but I'm moving on. Learned a harsh lesson, but one that made me stronger. There's life after betrayal, and sometimes, revenge is best served cold, calculated, and with a killer lawyer by your side. Don't let anyone mess with you or your family. Fight back. That's what I did. The silence after Sarah's breakdown was deafening. No tears, no apologies, just a whimpered plea for forgiveness. Didn't even look at her. Didn't deserve eye contact. The betrayal was a fresh wound, raw and throbbing. But something else bubbled beneath the hurt, a cold, steely resolve. She might have shattered my trust, but she wouldn't break me. No way. Didn't want a screaming match, throwing things. Needed a clear head, a plan. Feigned acceptance. Mumbled something about needing sleep. Crawled into bed on the couch, the image of them burned into my brain. Sleep wouldn't come. Mind racing, piecing things together. The perfume, the late nights, working on art, the distance I'd tried to ignore. It all fit now. A sickening puzzle clicking into place. Next morning, woke up with a newfound purpose. This wasn't about yelling or crying. This was about getting out, getting even, and protecting my son. She'd played me for a fool, but not anymore. First order of business evidence. Started small, discreetly. Downloaded phone records, checked credit card statements. Anything that could prove her infidelity. Built a case, brick by brick. Then came the lawyer. Called a friend, got a recommendation. Someone tough, I said, someone who takes no prisoners. He laughed and gave me a number. Met with the lawyer the next day. Sharp guy, expensive as heck, but his eyes held a steely glint that matched my mood. Laid out the situation, the evidence I'd gathered. He listened, took notes, a small smile playing on his lips. We can make her life a living hell, he said, his voice calm but firm. Exactly what I wanted to hear. Didn't care about revenge for revenge's sake, but she needed to pay. For the betrayal, the lies, the disrespect. The following weeks were a blur. Lawyer meetings, digging up dirt, strategizing. Sarah noticed the change, the steely glint in my eyes. Tried talking, pleading again. Ignored her. This wasn't about her anymore. The day the divorce papers hit her was priceless. Shock, then anger, then a desperate scramble. Too late. The evidence was there, cold and hard. The lawyer had unearthed hidden bank accounts. A secret stash of money Sarah had squirreled away from her, starving artist, act. Livid doesn't even begin to describe it. The divorce wasn't pretty, but it was mine. Full custody of my son, the house sold, a clean break. A new beginning. Away from the wreckage of our marriage. It wasn't easy, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Stay tuned. There's more to this story. The lawyer called it financial warfare. Didn't care what they called it. Point was, Sarah wouldn't mess with me anymore. Changed all the bank passwords, froze our joint accounts. She could scream all she wanted, but the money train had stopped. We were living under the same roof, but it might as well have been different planets. Slept on the couch, ate microwave dinners. She'd try talking, pleading, but I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. The only words that passed between us were the ones relayed through lawyers. The divorce filing hit her like a ton of bricks. Full custody, the house on the market. The lawyer didn't hold back. Then came the kicker. He exposed the affair in the court documents. Public humiliation, he called it. Savage, but effective. News travels fast in a small town. The whispers started, then the stares, then the full-blown gossip. Sarah couldn't leave the house without someone pointing fingers. The other guy in the picture? Vanished without a trace. Coward. Didn't feel any pleasure in her pain, not really. But there was a strange sense of satisfaction. She'd betrayed me, our family, and now everyone knew. Karma, I guess. The divorce itself was a blur. Lawyers argued. Papers were signed. A judge finalized things with a slam of his gavel. Sold the house quickly, a fresh start for both of us. Except, mine would be fresh and clean, hers, well, let's just say the town wouldn't forget anytime soon. Got full custody of my son, the most important thing in all of this. He was confused, scared at first. Therapy sessions helped, along with a ton of patience and reassurance. Slowly, we started rebuilding our lives, piece by broken piece. There were lonely nights, of course. Empty chair at the dinner table, the silence echoing in the house. But there were good days too, filled with laughter and board games, the simple joys of father and son. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. Met someone new at a local coffee shop. She was kind, funny, everything Sarah wasn't at the end. We started talking, then going out for coffee more often. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for happiness again. It's been a long road, full of twists and turns. But I learned a valuable lesson. Life throws you curveballs, but you gotta keep swinging. Now, with my son by my side and a bright future ahead, I can finally say this. I'm moving on. And Sarah? Well, let's just say she's a chapter in my life that's permanently closed. The lawyer called with an update, a smirk in his voice. Found a little surprise, he said. Turns out, Sarah's starving artist act was a bigger lie than I thought. He'd uncovered a trail of secret art sales, hidden bank accounts, years' worth of hidden income. Blood pressure spiked, but the lawyer just chuckled. This changes everything, he said. He was right. With this new evidence, the divorce settlement took a sharp turn. Significantly sharper assets ended up on my side of the table. Sarah? Well, let's just say she walked away empty-handed, besides the clothes on her back. Didn't feel sorry for her, not one bit. She played me for a fool, used me as a financial crutch while squirreling away money for her secret life. Now, she could reap what she sowed. The custody battle was the toughest part. Sarah put on a show, the devoted mother act. But the lawyer saw through it, and so did the judge. My son, bless his confused little heart, just wanted things to go back to normal. Therapist reports, school records, even Sarah's erratic behavior during the hearings, it all painted a clear picture. The judge's decision was music to my ears. Full custody to me, Sarah got visitation rights, but supervised. A bitter victory, but a victory nonetheless. Sold the house, a place filled with too many memories, both good and bad. New beginnings for both of us, I suppose. Except, mine would be with a clean slate and a happy son by my side. Hers? Well, the town wouldn't forget her little escapade anytime soon. Single fatherhood wasn't easy, but it was rewarding. School plays, soccer games, scraped knees, all the little moments that mattered. My son was healing, slowly but surely. The therapist said it would take time, but seeing him smile again, genuinely smile, made it all worth it. Then, life surprised me again. Met someone new at a local coffee shop. She was kind, funny, everything Sarah wasn't at the end. We started talking, then going out for coffee more often. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for happiness again. This whole ordeal changed me. More cautious, yes, but not cynical. I learned a harsh lesson, but one that made me stronger. Life throws curveballs, but you gotta keep swinging. And sometimes, when you least expect it, good things come your way. So, here's to new beginnings, to second chances, and to finally moving on. The road ahead is clear, and for the first time in a long time, I feel optimistic. And to Sarah, thanks for the reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's always light on the other side. Wow, what a journey! If you found this story as gripping as I did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Also, hit the bell icon to get notified every time we upload a new video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay strong, stay resilient, and remember, even in the darkest moments, there's always a light at the end. Welcome back to our channel, where we delve into the most intense and jaw-dropping stories about relationships, family dynamics, and the struggles we face in society. Today, we have a story that will leave you absolutely stunned. Imagine being in a marriage for 15 years, trusting your spouse implicitly, only to find out she was cheating on you while you were recovering from a serious injury. Not only that, but she also tried to use her position as an attorney to threaten and belittle you in court. Join me as we unravel this shocking tale titled, "My Attorney Wife Cheated on Me While I Was Recovering from Surgery and Threatened Me in Court." This story is called "Accident Attorney Gets Hammered for Her Infidelity." I actually thought I would never be on a forum, but here I am sharing my story of my wife of 15 years, who is a prominent accident attorney who had caught cheating on me with another attorney. I don't have any kids. She has a daughter from a previous relationship who shares a place with another woman. My wife never married and I am in my second marriage. My wife is 46 and I am 48. She had this attitude that she was invincible because she was an attorney and the judge would see things her way. Our bedroom life went straight to zero. Once I got injured on my job, I work construction and most of the time our jobs are seasonal. So when work is slow, I have to take odd jobs to make up for the lost wages. My wife was very supportive and attentive in the beginning. I wasn't mobile as much, and I had to depend on her in the beginning stages after many surgeries. My injury was, I fell from a scaffolding and broke my left arm and left leg and foot. I was in the hospital for a few weeks and had to have surgery to repair my arm, which they placed a metal rod in it. And in my leg, they had to put a steel plate and 6 screws. It was a very long process of healing. I was out of work for almost 2 years. My wife had to take on a lot more cases because we had bills that still had to be paid. She started working longer hours and sometimes she wouldn't come home until late at night. I would already be in bed because I was on so many different pain medications that I couldn't stay up later than 9 p.m. She would come home. Sometimes she would be in a bad mood and I would ask her what was wrong. And she would say that she was just tired from working all day. I started to notice little things that were odd. Like she would wear this perfume that I had never seen her wear before. And when I would ask her what it was, she would say, "Oh, I just found it at the store and I liked it, so I bought it." I also noticed that she was taking more showers than usual and she started working out more. I didn't think anything of it. After all, as a prominent accident attorney, she was swamped with accident cases. When she started her law career, she started out making almost $85,000 a year. Now, she has surpassed $150,000 a year and she has carried the load for us for the last 2 years. I never made as much money as she did. I made pretty decent money, but nowhere near my wife. My wife was the first to go to college in her family, and she was the first to become an attorney. And she was very proud of her accomplishments. I am very proud of her too, but I started to feel like I was not good enough for her because I didn't have a college degree and I felt like she was always working and I was just sitting at home, not doing anything. Over the last couple of months, I started noticing she would come home and text on her phone a lot. I really didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe she was talking to one of the other attorneys regarding the case or one of her girlfriends. One night when my wife came home from work, we talked for a little bit. Then she said she was going to take a shower and she left her phone on the kitchen counter. I usually don't look at her phone, but I did this time to my surprise. I couldn't get in. She had a password on it. My heart started beating fast because she has never had her phone locked the entire time we have been married. The next day, when my wife went to work, I asked a good friend of mine to come over to my place so I could talk to him. I told him what happened and he said, "If you suspect something, don't make any accusations without proof. Don't make the mistake I did." Then he said, "Listen, if you want, we can put a GPS tracker in our car to see if she is up to something, or you could hire a private investigator." I told him, "No, I am not hiring a private investigator. I can't afford one." We agreed on the GPS tracker and decided when she came home, we would do it late at night while she was asleep. Well, my friend would install it. We have a 3-car garage that sits away from the house a little. The few days pass and my friend installed the GPS tracker app on my phone, and I didn't notice anything suspicious the first 3 days she was at work, and the tracker showed her leaving work and coming straight home on the 4th night. That's when my suspicions were confirmed. My friend had come over a little after 9 p.m. and I made a comment to him that my wife is usually home by now. The first thing my friend said was, "Check the app." The GPS tracker showed that my wife was not at her job. She was in a residential area in a wealthy neighborhood that I knew she didn't have any business being in. I told my friend to drive there. We drove around the neighborhood until we saw her car parked in the driveway of a large home. We waited for about 30 minutes. Then we saw my wife walking towards the car. She was carrying a garment bag and a small suitcase. She put them in the trunk of her car. Then she got in the car and drove off. We followed her to a hotel. We waited for about an hour. Then we saw her come out of the hotel with a man. They were laughing and joking. And they all of a sudden kissed each other. My friend, who thinks fast on his feet, whipped out his phone and took a photo and a small video clip of them kissing. He looked over at me and said, "I am sorry, man." I had tears in my eyes. I was in shock. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I told him it was okay. I needed to see it with my own eyes to believe it. We sat there and watched as they got in her car and drove off. We followed them to a restaurant and we watched as they went inside. As they were walking into the restaurant, this man had his hands on my wife's butt. My friend just shook his head. I was fuming, but I couldn't do anything with a bum leg and bum arm from my fall. I told myself right then and there, I need to get a grip and start taking care of what I needed to. My friend told me if I needed a place to stay, I can stay with him until I get on my feet again. As the days went by, my friend and I continued to spy on my wife and get as much video and photos as we could. We later found out that the guy she was seeing is another attorney who works with her and he is married as well. But we both wondered where his wife was. Come to find out his wife is in the hospital fighting COVID. So, my plan was to call an attorney here in Georgia, and he opened my eyes a little. First thing he said to me was, if you file for divorce and you sleep with your wife, after you have filed, you won't get any alimony. I said to him, why is that? He said, if you sleep with her and you know she has cheated, you will not get any alimony. It means you have forgiven her. So, what do you want to do? I told the attorney to go ahead and start the divorce process. And I would be filing for alimony as well. I immediately got on the phone with my friend and asked him to meet me at my house to help me pack some things while my wife was at work. She has been coming home late anyway, so we had time. I get to my house and my friend is already there. I just took most of my clothes, my computer and some other odds and ends and followed him to his place. At about 1:16 in the morning, my wife sends me a text and asks where I am. I don't respond. I just let her wonder. To my surprise, when I didn't respond to her text, she didn't reach out anymore. Maybe she knew something was up, I don't know. The next morning, my attorney calls me and says that my wife will be served with divorce papers soon, and he asked me what my living status was. I told him that I moved out of the house temporarily and I have not slept with my wife since I found out. Later in the day, my wife calls me, I don't answer and she left a voicemail asking me to please call her. She is worried about me. I am thinking, BS, she isn't worried about me. I simply called her back and told her I knew she has been cheating on me and I filed for divorce. She was blown away and she denied it. Of course, I told her I had proof and hung the phone up. Over the next few weeks, my wife was served with divorce papers. She was highly upset and told me in a text, good luck getting anything in the divorce. She displayed a side of her I never knew existed. She was saying, I am a lawyer, I will make sure you don't get anything, you are nothing without me, just belittling me. At the divorce hearing, my lawyer presented evidence that my wife was cheating. She had a divorce lawyer as well, so he couldn't refute it. To make a long story short, I got spousal support for 7 years in the amount of $3,500 a month. My now ex-wife was livid. She thought just because she was an attorney, she would get her way. The judge also gave me 30 days to get the rest of my things out of the house. It only took me 2 days. My friend had a big enough home that I could put things in. His father had recently passed away and left him millions. And my friend also owned 2 coffee shops. I didn't care about the house. She could have it. And she made enough money to pay the mortgage on it. In the coming weeks, my friend and I learned that the wife of my now ex-wife recovered from her battle with COVID and found out that my ex-wife was having an affair with her husband. She went to their law firm and confronted them both in front of the other attorneys. They didn't get fired, but they were both reprimanded. And my ex-wife was told that if anything like this ever happens again, she will be fired. The law firm didn't take kindly to that type of publicity. I found out in the craziest way. The wife of my ex-wife's AP called me one day and told me everything. I couldn't believe it, and to top off the crazy stuff, my ex-wife sent me a text, wanting to talk and offered to cook me dinner. I read the text and deleted it. Since the divorce and finding this all out, I have been getting better with my mobility, exercising more to regain my strength. My friend, who is a godson, offered me a job to help him run his 2 coffee shops. So, things are looking up for me. I won't be ready to date anyone for a few months. I am not mentally ready for that. I don't think I can trust any woman right now. Thank you everyone for all of the encouraging comments. If you enjoyed the story, please like, comment, and consider subscribing to the channel for more content. I sincerely appreciate your time. Thank you for watching. If this story struck a chord with you, please give this video a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update on our latest stories. Until next time, stay strong and take care. Hey there, storytellers! Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the captivating tales that unfold in the intricate web of human relationships. Today, I have a story that will leave you on the edge of your seat, filled with betrayal, revenge, and unexpected twists. The title of today's tale is Caught My Husband Cheating on His Birthday. His reaction will shock you. Prepare yourselves for a roller coaster of emotions as we delve into the shocking events that unfolded when Wendy returned home early from a business trip, only to discover her husband's deceit. But before we dive into the story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest storytelling adventures. Now, let's jump right into the drama. I had returned home from business trip earlier than planned, and I had the all-too-natural idea of surprising my husband with my return and with a nice dinner. I hid myself in the living room closet, trying not to laugh out loud with excitement from seeing him all surprised and happy to see me, when the front door finally opened and I could hear his voice. But then, I also heard a woman's voice that I didn't recognize, and in a few moments, I saw them come into the living room together, arm in arm. My husband was with another woman, a stranger to me. At that moment, I realized that everything was a lie, and what was going to be a surprise became revenge. I was never going to forgive him, and he was going to pay well for his actions. How could he betray me, his own wife? Prepare yourself, darling, for what might be your last few seconds of precious life. My name is Wendy, and I'm a 32-year-old office woman. After graduating from college, I got a job at a major company that manages gardening equipment, and since then, I've been working hard as a career woman with a potentially bright future ahead of her. Up until about a year ago, I only cared about my working life and my personal success as a working member of society, but a year ago, I met Landon, my future husband. We met through a mutual friend, who invited the two of us to a small drinking party at a nice tavern downtown, and he worked in another smaller company. We hit it off, and after 17 months of being a couple, we got married, and we lived a happy life together as a working couple. My husband works for a small business in agricultural machines, and he never works overtime, and I don't work overtime either, and I also came home earlier than he did, so whenever I did, I would often wait for him after I cooked something for dinner. It was hard to do housework after work, but my husband worked hard in a physically demanding job, and my determination to cheer up with a meal was pretty impressive, so I didn't really mind doing the housework. As long as Landon could rest at home, nice and peaceful, when he was tired, that was good enough for me. A part of me also wanted him to think that I was a good wife for him, so, in my own way, I was doing my best at home too. Then, one day, it was decided that I was going to go on a long-term business trip. This business trip was related to an impending promotion of mine, and I was very excited. I even thought that this business trip would decide the fate of my career, if not my life itself. But during the trip, Landon would be alone in the house. He's a grown man who can take care of himself like it was a walk in the park, so there wasn't any need to worry. But one thing you should know about my husband, he is a catastrophically poor cook, and he's never done a day's housework in his life. Up until we got married, he was living in his parents' home, and everything was taken by my mother-in-law, Mrs. Bratz. Landon can't even do his own laundry, but, nowadays, in this advanced society, we have delivery service for meals, and there's a laundromat a short walk away from where we lived for laundry. I was sure he could manage. and while I was on my business trip, my husband was going to celebrate his 34th birthday. We used to spend his birthday together, but because of this stupid business trip, we couldn't spend it together this time. Landon, honey, we won't be able to celebrate your birthday together this year. I'm so sorry. Oh, Wendy, darling, it's okay. It can't be helped in this case. You have work to do. But good luck with your work, darling. I've always loved you because you always try to do your best. We'll do something to celebrate it again when you come back. How's that? That idea sounds awesome. Thanks so much. And I'm really sorry. I'll do my best as always. With some kind words from my husband, I got even more determined to do great, and I headed out on my business trip. While I was away, I was very busy. Work often lasted until after I usually went home. This made it difficult for me to find enough time to call my husband or have a real-time conversation over text messages. I did call him every once in a while, and by that I mean a couple of days, but when I could reach him, perhaps he was busy at the moment because he never answered the phone. I couldn't get in touch with him other than messages, and it just wasn't the same. I missed him, but Landon had sent me off with his great words of encouragement, so I focused on working hard to land that big promotion. My hard work paid off in the end, because I finished a little bit early, and that meant that I could go home from my business trip a few days earlier than scheduled. I was so happy. I was able to come home on my husband's birthday, even though I told him I couldn't make it because of this business trip. I had the all-too-natural idea of surprising my husband with my return and with a nice dinner on the day of his birthday. The plan was that I would leave work early on his birthday and bring home Chinese food and a nice birthday cake for him and the wallet he wanted as a present. I had it all ready. I could only imagine how happy he would be to see me back home on his birthday. Just envisioning the look of surprise and excitement he would surely have on his face made me so eager to hurry up and get home. I arrived home long before he always did. That night would probably be the same as always. He would be home by 6 p.m. To surprise him, I hid in the living room closet. But even after 6 p.m., he still wasn't home. I wondered if it might be because he was celebrating his birthday with a bunch of his colleagues, and as I slowly began to be convinced that's what he was doing, I felt grateful for his friends. But I still wanted to see the look of surprise and excitement on Landon's face. So I didn't call it a night, even when it was after 6:30 p.m. I remained in the closet and waited for the familiar hum of his car. I was pretty tired from my long and tedious business trip where I spent an ungodly amount of time in front of papers and computer screens, and before I knew it, I was fast asleep. I only realized I was when I woke up a few hours later from the sound of a rumbling car engine. I opened the closet door slightly, and through the window, I saw the signal lights of the car scintillating. My husband had come home at last. I quietly closed the closet door and waited for him for another few minutes. I heard the front door open, and the familiar sound of Landon's business shoes echoed through the house. I had a good time today. Thank you for the delicious dinner. It was delicious, wasn't it? It was nice to spend your birthday with you, sweetie. Why in the goddamn world of ignorant bliss did I hear a woman's voice? One that I didn't recognize, in any case. And that sounded suspiciously young. I was so upset, but I tried not to make a sound in the closet. Seriously, I can't believe how happy a simple business trip could make me. I feel like every day I get to spend with you, Clara. I'm undoubtedly the happiest man in the world. It's actually insane how great I feel right now. Thank you, sweetie. I love spending time with you too. I can't help but feel sorry for your wife, but I always tell myself that it can't be helped. It's okay, darling. I'm only married to her for her money. You're the only woman I've ever loved. Am I really? Are you seriously only married to her because she's got bags of money stashed away? I know it'd be so hard for me when I discover my own loving husband says things like that about me. There's nothing good about her except for her money, literally the only thing she has going for her. And they got ridiculously excited as they piled on the bad things about me. I was shell-shocked, but unknowing of my presence in the room, they went on talking shit about me, laughing all the while. I always have an amazing time with you, Clara, but if I imagine that I only had a relationship with that hag, it's like suffocating me. It's a real nightmare. Then you're lucky I'm here. I'll say this again. I never loved Wendy. I love you so much, and I'm going to do what we can to be together, okay? Then they went to take a bath. I took advantage of the opportunity and left the house quietly. Maybe the better option would have been to interrogate the two slimy traitors right then and there, but the shock at what I'd witnessed was just too overwhelming. It was extremely difficult to prevent myself from hyperventilating and screaming in sorrow. I couldn't face the reality just yet. I needed time to gather my senses first. I booked a hotel room nearby and stayed there that night. As I was trudging towards the hotel, my emotions got the better of me, and I suddenly started to cry. I sat down on a bench in a small park, ripped open the box that contained Lana's birthday cake, forced my fingers around a large clump of dessert, and stuffed it in my mouth. The cream tasted very sweet, and somehow my tears, which were streaming into my mouth at this point, added a nice little tang at the beginning of each bite. From the point of view of passerbys, I was basically a woman dressed in office uniform, stuffing a ridiculous amount of birthday cake into my mouth, crying all the while, and getting cream in every nook and cranny of my face. I definitely looked a suspicious person, but during that time of personal crisis, what people thought of me was the least of my problems, and I couldn't care less. After crying a legitimate rainstorm, my sadness towards the situation gradually transformed into anger towards my husband. I don't mean to say that he owes me something, but no one can deny I've done so much for him. I cooked for him, did the housework for him, all because he couldn't do shit around the house, and when he told me there was something he wanted, I went and actually something nice for him. I got him a birthday present that cost thousands of dollars, and he was still willing to cast me aside as an ATM machine and never accept me as the one he chose to spend the rest of his life with. Call me a money grubber, will you? Well, that doesn't come for free, my dearest. I threw the wallet I'd bought for his birthday as hard as I could into a nearby trash can. You've got some nerve to cheat on your wife while she's away on a business trip, my dearest, I muttered to myself as I left the park. On the way to the hotel, I decided to get a divorce, but I knew he would only be pleased if I divorced my husband. I decided to really make him suffer for his crimes before divorcing him. For a while thereafter, I continued to stay at the hotel. I was supposed to go back home next week, so until then, I can't go home. But I did actually stop by my house on the way, and the fact that I found Landon's car was strange, very strange indeed. At this time of night, he's supposed to be at work still. I called his company posing as a client, and asked the receptionist at the other end of the phone, "Excuse me, is Mr. Landon Brass present at this hour?" "I'm sorry, ma'am, but it seems Mr. Brass has taken a vacation for about a week." "Oh, is that so? Thank you for telling me. So my husband is on vacation for a week." That led me to wonder if the woman whom he was having an affair with worked for the same company. I checked. Well then, is there someone by the name of Clara? "I'm so sorry, ma'am, it seems Miss McIntyre is also on vacation for about a week. Is there anything you need to inform us about? If it's urgent, I can put someone else on the phone to assist you." "No, it's not urgent. Thank you so much. Have a nice day, sir." After I said that, I hung up. I found out that my husband was having an affair with one of his coworkers. I was so sick of his stupid bullshit I wanted to throw up. I couldn't comprehend the fact that I used to love Landon Brass. Now, I feel nothing but contempt, disgust, and fury. I stayed out of the house for a while, checking on them both from a distance. After perhaps an hour or so, I saw them having inappropriate physical contact as they exited the house. They got into Landon's car and drove off somewhere. They were each carrying a large suitcase, so naturally, I assumed the two snakes were going on a trip, taking an entire week off from work just to go on a vacation of adultery. What a couple of carefree jellyfishes. I made sure my husband was out of the house completely before I went inside. I decided to take all of my valuables and all the things I needed and leave the house, never to return to live again. After I was sure I had packed everything, I made one last check of the house, which was in fact a kind of formal goodbye to the building. I loved that house. It was perfect for both of us to have a nice and peaceful time to rest after a hard day's work, and the backyard was absolutely beautiful. Landon and I were going to build a life together, and the first step was buying this house with most of what we'd saved up. It was not a new house by any means, but considering the fact that I was going to live in it with the person I loved, it was the best house I could have asked for. But now, I was living in it with a traitor, and I didn't feel comfortable at all. My biggest desire was to leave that house as quickly as I could, but my old love for this house made me linger for another few minutes. I took a walk around the inside. I discovered a lot of the woman's belongings, Clara's belongings. I became positive that while I was away on my business trip, they were indeed planning on living together in their cheesy, unfaithful excuse of passion. Assorted lotions, shampoos, conditioners, and items of makeup that weren't mine lined the nightstand in Landon's bedroom. His closet lodged her clothes, anything ranging from casual jeans and sweaters, to beautiful dresses, to inappropriately tiny blouses. The room had a fruity smell to it, and I later found out why. Landon's old bedsheets, which were now nowhere to be found, had been thrown away, probably, and replaced with new, orange-scented ones. When I saw all this, I was beyond angry. I was utterly mortified. I wondered what all the time we had spent meant exactly. Which had we been trying to build up the whole time? I left the house, and first went straight to a trusted lawyer, who helped me prepare for the divorce, and then I went to a detective agency to gather evidence against the affair. When I went to the house the second time, I probably should have taken pictures of the evidence, but I felt like if I took pictures with my phone, the scene would burn itself into my mind in the worst way possible, and I didn't like it. Additionally, I couldn't stay in the hotel forever, so I rented an apartment that could accommodate a tenant for a month at a time. That's where I put all the stuff I had packed and taken away with me when I left the house. I had to find a new, bigger, better place to live. By this time, I had already made up my mind on getting a divorce, and nothing was going to change my mind. I no longer had any love for Landon Brass, and he was dead to me, but something told me it wasn't enough. Of all the pain he had caused me, I have to pay him back with pain tenfold. Otherwise, my gut would never be satisfied, nor would it ever forgive me for backing out. As I went about my work as usual, I waited for a call from the detective agency, and I got a phone call from at what was quite possibly the best time ever. They said they had accumulated enough evidence, which was excellent news. I asked them to keep that evidence in a secure place while I went back to my husband's house. There was a car parked outside, so I knew he must have returned from his trip of adultery. After I confirmed he was inside the house, I headed to the cake shop and bought a cake before I went back to my husband's house. I unlocked the door, and I quietly entered the building. I made sure he was not in the living room, and then proceeded to approach his bedroom door. As I got ever closer, I could hear my husband and the woman known as Clara McIntyre, whom he was having an affair with, inside. I held up the box that contained the cake, opened it up quietly, took out the dessert, set the box aside in the corridor, and burst into the room. "Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you!" My voice startled them both, and their faces expressed the purest shock I'd ever seen. It was priceless, and I wanted to laugh, but keeping a straight face here and going through with the plan was key. Ignoring their ridiculous faces, I kept on singing. Happy birthday, dear traitor, happy birthday to you. Once I finished singing, I threw the entire cake at my husband as hard and as accurately as I could. The dessert landed with a satisfying splat all over his naked upper body, and some of the cream flew into the naked woman as well. Hey! What the frick are you doing, Wendy? What the frick am I doing? Well, look who's talking. And what do you think you're doing, eh? Well, I mean... Wait, I didn't know you were home already. Why the hell didn't you call me? Why didn't I call you? Listen, buddy, I'm about to clue you in on the truth here. I was already here on your birthday. I hope I didn't say anything more to help you understand. Oh my God, there's no way. My husband's mouth started to spasm, and his darling lover must have been more speechless than he. Her mouth gaped open and gave me the impression she physically couldn't get it shut. I think you just stole my frickin' line, Mr. Brass. There's no way I'm seeing any of this right now. Could you explain to what exactly it is you're doing? Well, this is, what does you know about this place, madam? This is my house, you know. Well. Perhaps my sudden intrusion really did the job to leave them catatonic. They were visibly upset, and they were not answering any of my questions. I'm only a money grubber, after all, and this lady is the only one you love, right? Well, I have just the remedy for that. From now on, you will pay me back all the money that you stole from me. I'm going to demand alimony from you, and you better pay me back every single penny you owe me. No sooner had I uttered the word alimony than my husband gasped, and then I looked at the woman whom he was having an affair with. She was shaking. Well, don't just stay there where you are, in that uncomfortable position. Get down on the floor, on your knees. I'm sure you'll feel a lot better that way. The moment I told her so, they both rushed off the bed, kneeled before me, and bowed their heads towards the floor. I'm sorry, I was having a little bit of fun with her. Since you were away working, I missed you, and the loneliness was getting to me. Yes, that's all true. I have a husband myself, but he never pays any attention to me, and I was in desperate need of someone who appreciated my company. Exactly, and we were actually talking about ending things right when you barged in, Wendy. We were just saying goodbye to each other. Yes, we were. We both agreed it wasn't good for the ones we chose to marry originally. We literally just broke up, Wendy. Cheaters, liars, backstabbing traitors. I'm pretty sure all of these things describe the same two people. Let's see who can guess the right answer. I heard you two outside earlier, loud and clear. Bullshit, you were talking about ending things. What you were really talking about was taking a 2-week trip to Japan next. You've got to be kidding me. How do two people stoop to such low humanity, damn it? That's what I said, and both he and the woman went deathly pale, indicating I hit the nail on the head. You guys are such assholes. I already mentioned I heard you guys talking shit about me the night of this bastard's birthday. With me having this much knowledge about what you think about my frickin' existence, you really think I'm gonna whatever horseshit excuse your bird brains come up with? I'm sorry. I admit that I cheated on you, and I deeply apologize. I hope you can forgive me. Just because you act all responsible and innocent right now, doesn't mean you're any closer to being forgiven. I'm sorry, I really am. I really do believe that what I did was wrong. Divorce me. Now. Please, please don't say such things, Wendy. Really, it was just, it was just for fun. Ma'am, on behalf of Landon, I'm begging you, don't divorce him. Please. The name's Clara, right? Who are you to talk to on behalf of Landon Brass? Don't you dare forget that you're eligible for paying me alimony too, eh? But, I was just having an affair. It's not like we were married, Landon and I. I don't think the law states that you can demand alimony from me because it was just fun and games. I don't believe this. Tell me what exactly is your IQ score? I'm just dying to know. Of course I can legally demand alimony from you. You knew the man whom you were with was married to another woman, and yet you went on with the affair, hoping to get something nice out of it. Newsflash, lady. Nothing nice comes out of unfaithfulness. I was so stunned that this woman was pretty much claiming that the Sun was basically the world's largest pizza in the entire state of Mexico. I couldn't believe I'd lost my actual husband to a woman with zero common sense. I want a divorce. I've already hired a lawyer, so if you want to know more about the demands, you'll hear about it from him. I've also been to the detective agency, and they acquired a lot of solid evidence of your stupid affair. If you're thinking of uttering excuses to get yourself out of this, don't freaking bother. It doesn't make any sense, for one thing. And second, you'd be digging your own grave. You can't be serious. I don't want a divorce. I don't want a divorce. You even said you didn't want to talk to me. Being around me was enough to get you disgusted enough to want to run the frick away from this place. I don't know how you expect us to live with ourselves as a married couple, now that the relationship is ruined. Oh wait, of course. I'm the money grubber, so you literally need me in order to survive, right? No, that's not it. Oh darling, it's a shame. Because this year, I actually got you that luxury brand wallet you've been wanting for quite some time. I had it. Ready for you. And I was gonna give it to you. Now, it's in the trash. No, there's no way maybe you should have stayed true to yourself. Goodbye. That's all I had to say, and I left them with their grief and shame, alone in the house. Thereafter, Mr. Brass tried calling me a few times, but I ignored them all. I left everything to my lawyer. Mr. Brass was later fired from his job, perhaps the fact that I went to the company where he and the woman whom he was having an affair with worked, and gave them an official letter from the detective agency that contained the evidence of their adultery. Nowadays, it isn't uncommon anymore to hear about people that cheated on their husbands or wives, and it's pretty much common knowledge right now that anyone who does engage in such crimes against humanity will lose credibility in the company, and in life in general. How in the world did Mr. Brass and Miss McIntyre not know anything about that? Mr. Brass was so dependent on me for living expenses, so I wouldn't be surprised if he never saved a penny. Now that he was fired, he pleaded to me through my lawyer to let him pay the alimony and monthly installments. I agreed, as long as he paid me in full. As for Miss McIntyre, she was fired from her job and was left without any money. Mr. McIntyre found out about the affair. I believe he's also demanding alimony. She tried to turn to Mr. Brass for help, but found no luck with him as he didn't have any savings whatsoever and was now working part-time. She decided she couldn't rely on him, and thus she betrayed him and replaced him with a man who seemed to be loaded with money. But that man turned out to be quite formidable because he didn't even work, and even though he's neck-deep in debt, he never failed to waste his money on stupid things like gambling and marijuana. Knowing that neither Mr. Brass nor Miss McIntyre are living happy lives after their affair was exposed makes me feel somewhat relieved. The irony is that now I know full well it's not good to take pleasure in other people's unhappiness. I got a big promotion after that long business trip I took, and I was praised as the first woman in the company's history to be promoted to that position at such a young age, 32. There are junior staff who admire me because of this achievement and makes me subconsciously put more time and effort into my work. It's a very good thing I love my work, and now I've set myself a new challenge. To be a good boss who sets a good example for my subordinates, to be a trusted employee of the company and contribute to bringing it to greatness, and to acquire what is needed to be promoted even further up in the ranks of the enterprise. Wish me luck, everyone! Thank you for sticking with us through this intense and emotional story. If you found it as compelling as we did, make sure to leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories. Hit the notification bell so you're the first to know when we release a new video. Until next time, take care and remember, sometimes, the truth is more terrifying than the... Welcome back to the channel, everyone! I'm thrilled to have you here for another captivating tale that will tug at your heartstrings and keep you on the edge of your seat. Today's story is one of love, betrayal, and the quest for self-discovery. It's titled I Tested My Girlfriend to See If She Loved Me for My Money, and it backfired horribly. Al looked at Tori, who deftly took the roll with the stick and put it in her mouth. She acted as if she had been going to restaurants since childhood, although she lived in a small apartment and worked as an accountant. Tori looked great. It seems that she has rich parents who constantly pamper their daughter, and she doesn't get out of the spa. The girl licked her lips and smiled at him. Al met Tori at the gym. He came to run on the treadmill, and Tori was engaged in walking. A conversation began between them. She turned out to be a very interesting and quick-witted girl, so the young man's head quickly went around. Al was fascinated by her sincerity and spontaneity. But then, relatives and friends began to give advice to the guy. Al's mother said that he chose a girl for himself from the category of those who only need money from a man. His mother reproachfully expressed, his father supported her with a displeased expression on his face. Al tried to think differently. He was fine with Tori. He didn't believe that she was a windy girl or a liar. But those around him stubbornly imposed a completely different opinion on him. Therefore, condemnation settled in his soul like a heavy stone, no matter how much he wanted to get rid of them. But Al increasingly began to notice the fact that he began to treat Tori differently than before. He constantly tried to find a catch in her behavior. He wanted to understand if she was really interested in him, or if she only needed his money. And one day, he decided to talk to Andrew, his good old buddy, about Tori and his parents' relationship with her. Andrew said, Tori is a 100% hunter for wealth. Don't you yourself understand this? Do you think she earns money as an accountant for all this beauty? Al swallowed hard. Do all girls look beautiful only thanks to beauty salons? If a girl is well-groomed, then she is necessarily a hunter for wealth? He had many thoughts in his head, and each thought gave birth to a new doubt inside. Andrew spoke with a sly smile. And you check her out. Give her some expensive jewelry. If she agrees and accepts the gift, then she is definitely the same hunter. Al decided to try. Before that, he gave Tori only flowers and invited her on a date. And now he decided to buy her a gold chain with an emerald pendant, which would perfectly match the color of her eyes. When he presented the gift, Tori didn't refuse. She calmly accepted the chain and said that she had not been given such expensive gifts before, and she was very pleased. Al didn't understand anything at all. How should he perceive her behavior now? She's actually a hunter for wealth. Or an honest adult who doesn't want to waste her time needlessly rejecting gifts and bickering, just because pretty much everyone does it out of sheer shyness. He had even more questions, and Al didn't know how to find out exactly what Tori wanted. The man was embarrassed to directly invite her to draw up a marriage contract. He believed that he should share everything with his wife, at least in half. If not, give her everything, because she would support him and keep the house comfortable, because she would bear him children in the future, because she simply exists and that she chose him, although there are a lot of men around. His father sat at a family dinner noticing his son's condition. Al didn't quite understand him. What? His father advised. Pretend to be bankrupt. It's simple. Tell her you've lost everything and live for a few days in a rented apartment. Take public transport and see if your beauty girl stays with you or runs away from you. Al liked his father's proposal. The thought was actually correct. This way, he would be able to make sure that Tori loves him. Otherwise, he didn't want to think about another scenario, but at least he would not make the most serious mistake in his life if the girl disappeared. He would not marry the girl who needed only his finances. And now, as they sat in the Japanese restaurant, Al looked at Tori and prepared to tell her the lies he'd come up with overnight. But his tongue didn't want to turn. Al started. Tori, something happened to me. And he paused, noticing her worried look. This is probably the last time we have dinner at a restaurant. Tori was surprised. Why? You say that like you want to leave me. Al said with difficulty. No, they blocked all my accounts. Here's what's left of my cash. My apartment was also sealed, and my business is on the verge of bankruptcy. A bunch of checks from the tax and other nonsense. I'm not sure that I can afford all this, even if I return to work as a simple financer. Tori forced a smile and lowered her head. At that moment, something inside Al broke off. It seemed to him that he said goodbye to the woman whom he considered the best in the world. Tori didn't say anything else. And when Al saw her off, she just kissed him sparingly on the cheek and left. It's been 3 days, and Tori hasn't called him or even texted him. Al wanted to dial her number, but didn't dare. She made a decision and chose not him. So she didn't really love him. The man played this thought over and over in his head. However, 6 months of a happy relationship couldn't just disappear from his thoughts. They left an indelible mark. Al wanted to talk to the girl and sort out the situation. He even considered telling her that he lied about his financial situation. But then, Tori would have returned to him solely because of the money. Such a relationship would clearly have lost its passion and sincerity. Al began to frequent the cafe that he and Tori often went to when they were walking along the promenade together. He bought himself a coffee, sat down at a table and looked out the window. In his mind, he returned to the moments when they wandered along the shore holding hands. He remembered her smile, jokes, stories about work, and his soul became very heavy. Tori strongly sunk into the soul of a man, and she didn't want to leave from there. The rings of bells on the cafe door brought the man back to reality. Al glanced towards the entrance and froze. Tori entered the cafe. She smiled with some sadness, as if she didn't expect to see him and was not glad to meet him. But she sat down at Al's table anyway and greeted him. The man remarked, "Hi Tori." He had no idea what they could talk about. Only a week and a half had passed, and his soul went to his heels as soon as he saw her. And in that second, he was ready to confess everything and ask her to come back because he missed her. He went crazy without her. The girl started first. "How are you doing? I see that everything is fine with your business. I recently saw your interview on TV." Al opened his mouth, but closed it because the waiter came, and he could at least gather his thoughts a little to properly express what was on his soul. Tori ordered ice cream and coffee with cream, and the waiter left. Al looked at the girl. It was hard for him to even breathe, being next to her and realizing that she couldn't belong to him, and that all her love was feigned. And now she approached him, most likely because she saw his interview on TV. Tori, I have to tell you something. Al hesitated to reveal his lies, although he wanted to tell her that she had failed the test. She whispered, "Speak." Al said and lowered his head. There was no bankruptcy. He had no idea where this conversation would lead, but he had to open his soul and tell her that she broke his heart and maybe he would feel better. You decided to test me. I knew about it from the very beginning, even when you started talking to me then. Why do you think I decided to disappear from your life? Al's eyes went wide. He felt restless in his soul, as if he had been circled around his finger or were trying to do it now. Then why didn't you say it right away? Tori pursed her lips, turned to look out the window and said, "Did I have to tell you something? Almost from the very beginning, I felt distrust on your part. When we first met, I felt so warm and good with you. I was sure that I had found the very man I could rely on, whom I could trust, and that it would be mutual. But it didn't last long. After meeting your parents, I felt pressured. It hasn't let go of me for a second since that day. You started acting like you were eyeing me, like you wanted to catch me red-handed, like some kind of thief. And after meeting your friends, you began to find fault with me for all sorts of trifles. Al, do you think I didn't see the face you gave me that pendant with?" Tori touched her fingers to the chain that hung around her neck, and then she unfastened the clasp. She took off the chain with the pendant and placed it in front of the man. You were waiting for me to start reacting like those naive girls who are waiting for such a gift. But when they receive it, they begin to pretend that it's so unexpected. You and I are both adults. Why did you have to arrange this test for me? Why didn't you trust me? Why do you doubt me? Didn't you feel my sincerity and love? Al had nothing to say. His temples throbbed and all the words were scattered in different directions. There was a void in his head. That's why Tori looked at him with such sadness then. She knew everything. She felt. And she didn't want to talk because she was in pain. The waiter brought Tori's order. She drank coffee and started eating ice cream, and Al didn't know what to say to her. He just sat, looked at the chain she took off her neck, and was silent, realizing that he himself had broken his love. If you gave me a second chance, I would fix everything. That's the only thing Al could say. Why would you need a second chance? Tori took the money out of her purse and put it on the table. She rose to her feet and looked at the man. You are too dependent on someone else's opinion, and I need a reliable person who will love me and trust me even if everyone around is against me. Unfortunately, people don't change at the snap of their fingers, and I don't believe that this will not happen again. Sorry, I have to run. I was glad to meet you, but that's all, and please don't try to find me, and better. Tori thought for a moment, sighed heavily, and added, don't try to bring me back, but reconsider your behavior and attitude to life. You can't be led by someone else's opinion all your life. Tori is gone. It was hard for her to be around Al, but she understood that his test and distrust would not allow them to be truly happy. She couldn't stay near him, and he just sat, looked after her, and couldn't move, because he actually screwed everything up and let go of the person who could replace the whole world for him. If you enjoyed this story, please show your support by hitting the like button. Your engagement means the world to me and helps keep the stories coming. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on future tales filled with unexpected twists and turns. Subscribing not only keeps you in the loop but also supports me in my quest to bring you more captivating stories. So, take a moment to like and subscribe. Thank you again for your support, and stay tuned for more incredible journeys. Until next time, keep believing in the power of stories to transform and